Good morning, everybody. Craig DeLeo here. And I want to bring up something that one of my friends brought up to me yesterday. And he talks about where I choose to do a lot of my videos. And I choose to do my videos on my front porch because I think it's a nice, warm, comfy place to do things. And it makes you feel like you're talking to someone on their front porch. And that's an honest answer. But one of the things that we discussed was the fact that I'm one of the surprisingly diminishing grouping of people here in America that owns their own home. And this is something that is, after Gen X, is something that's becoming a diminishing ability. And one of the only reasons, and I will say this, with the grace of the VA home loan program, I don't think I would have been able to afford my own home. The grace and the thanks of the VA home program, I wouldn't have been able to, because the idea of being able to save up 20% of a down payment on my first home wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the VA home loan. So I will say that much. But because the conventional home loan program would not have worked for me, the idea of PMI and all these horrible things, which are sadly necessities of our system. But one of the things I will say that I think has possibly led to our housing problems and our housing crisis as it exists right now is possibly the discussion of the Glass-Steagall Act. Now, those of you that aren't familiar with the Glass-Steagall Act, that dates back to pre-1963, and that's when the Glass-Steagall Act, I believe, was the first time the Glass-Steagall Act was abolished. It was 1960, or excuse me, not 1960, 1933, excuse me, was 1933. The Glass-Steagall Act, what it did, and when we abolished it, was it allowed banks to basically, it allowed banks to no longer be separate institutions. It allowed the combination of savings banks and investiture banks. It allowed these now to be one institution instead of separate institutions. Think about Ma Bell and the fact of Ma Bell got separated, and now you couldn't have, you know, one telecom institution to do all things. The Glass-Steagall Act allowed banks to be one institution for all things. Now, do I think and do I feel that the reinstitution of something like the Glass-Steagall Act would solve our housing crisis? No. I don't believe that would solve the problem. However, I do feel like the use of single family dwellings, and when I say single family dwellings, I'm going to include things like condo structures and townhouse structures as part of that discussion, things that a normal person would use for living, um, and reduce costs, because I feel like condos and townhouses are venues to lower the cost of maintenance of a home structure versus a single family dwelling. That I don't feel like reinstituting something like the Glass-Steagall Act would solve that problem, but I think that's something we need to look at. And the fact of the investment of the usage of single-family dwellings and what most people, an individual, would use to buy to basically have a hedge or something to live in, and the great increase of using of single-family dwellings as basically investments and hedge against inflation is a wrong way to look at it. And especially where the interest rates continue to climb, and I don't see we're never going to see interest rates in the 3% ever again. I don't believe we're going to see those ever again in my lifetime, let alone ever again. My friends that have got these 2%, 3% interest rates, I'm sorry, I don't believe we're ever going to see those again. But we need to look at this as an answer. I don't think Glass-Steagall, reinstituting Glass-Steagall is as an answer, but we need to look at the stopping using said living structures as an as investment avenues and investment vectors as what they're being used for right now is a good answer, because it makes buying a home next to impossible. I remember when I bought this structure, the fact that we were competing against, I can't remember how many homes we put bids on, and we're constantly being outbid by people who wanted to, just cash offers. And I knew we were We were making offers against, companies, and it was ridiculous. And we were shocked at how difficult it was to buy this home versus the house before that, and it was ridiculous. So I absolutely understand where we are with this housing crisis, or it's only gotten worse after COVID, or because we bought during COVID. So when when income rates were still reasonable, so I now that investment or interest rates are now at the 6, 7, 8% rates, I understand absolutely why this is absolutely impossible now. So, and then when you pair that with income rates where they're at versus the cost of a home, I absolutely understand why buying a home is next to impossible or improbable. So we need to look at things we can do to hedge um, these people using and businesses using homes that are actually livable as investment vectors. So I this is where I see the problem now. Do I have oh my God, this is my brilliant answer of how to solve the problem? Absolutely not. This is something we need to explore. And these are many things that on the national level that we need to explore, because letting people continue to use these as investment vectors is not the right answer. We have plenty of other places you can use as investment vectors that we need to not be using homes and increasing the value of homes artificially is where we're all that's going to do is put us back in another housing crisis like we were back in 2007. So again, I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from and the fact of I see these things and I'm constantly seeing these things and I have these discussions with people. And again, hope you all have a great day. I love you all. I love all my shipmates. And again, hope to talk to you soon.